So hello and a very good afternoon, YouTube. How is everyone? I hope each one of you are doing absolutely fine, working hard in your own life and enjoying life to the core. Today, let's talk a little bit about मैंने हाइनेस क्यों बेचा और मैंने क्लासिक क्यों ली. Why did I sell my Highness and bought the classic 350? Well, reasons तो बहुत है. Let's first start off with boredom. I get bored with motorcycles very soon, very fast. That's reason number one. And now coming to the more practical reasons of, switching over to classic 350 from the Highness. Servicing of the motorcycle is a very big headache for the Highness. Highness का सर्विस कराना, उसका पार्ट्स खरीदना अपने आप में एक इशू है. और वो अगर हम कर भी लेते हैं, उन लोगों का सर्विस का क्वालिटी बहुत ख़राब है, बहुत ख़राब है. एटलीस्ट इन कोलकाता you're literally going to end up, arguing with them, and they are not going to agree to what they are not going to provide you the service you or your motorcycle deserve. All they want is money. All they want is business. They are not interested in solving the big issues that a motorcycle comes across after it is, 2.5 years old. नॉर्मल सा सर्विस तो कोई भी कर लेगा, रास्ता में बैठा हुआ बंदा भी कर लेगा. एक मोटरसाइकिल का एक्चुअल सर्विस शुरू होता है once it is 2 years old or at least 20,000 kilometers old. Only then the actual issues come up and the service requirements arise. So that is one of the reasons for which I got fed up with Honda and I had to part ways with it. Now see, I primarily bought the Highness for riding in the city amongst the dense traffic at times. Another big issue with the Highness is the tall gearing. It never wants to settle in a particular gear that you put it in. It always wants you to keep on shifting gears up and down, up and down, up and down, which is not the case with this motorcycle. You could ride this motorcycle in higher gears at a very low speed. Of course, modulation is required. That is there. So that was a big concern with the Highness. Another big problem, this is not just an issue, it's a problem. In all the Highness series, the Highness, the CB350, the RS, is the suspension. My goodness. I'm forced to say, after using the motorcycle for 30,000 kilometers, that it has got one of the crappiest suspension I've ever used in my life, in all my motorcycles. Honda just screwed up the suspension setup of that motorcycle. Which is again not the case with this one. This one has got Very good tuned suspension for our Indian roads, for bad roads, for smooth roads, for bumpy roads. In most of the terrains that I come across inside the city, I'm not talking about off-road over here, and I didn't judge the Highness in off-road as well. Both these bikes are not meant for off-roading, so off-road is out of the chapter. I'm just talking about normal city roads, as the roads that you see in my vlogs, talking about that. So this motorcycle, you know, in most of such roads is not going to make you complain. I won't say it's the best of the suspension, no, but it's definitely tuned in a way that it's not going to make you complain. It's not going to make you say, oh fuck. वही बात है, इसका सस्पेंशन इतना अच्छा से ट्यून्ड है कि आपको कोई दिक्कत नहीं आता है. एटलीस्ट हम लोग इंडिया का रोड्स पे जैसे जैसे गद्दे, जैसे जैसे यू नो वेवी रोड्स जो रहता है, कभी कभार ख़राब रास्ता भी आ जाता है, तो ये आराम से उसको झेल लेता है, कोई दिक्कत नहीं आता. But that was definitely not the case with Highness. I had faced a lot of problem with the Highness suspension, you know. Yeah, there are solutions to that. You could, you know, replace it with more expensive suspension. You could do the research. I never did the research because you know, I didn't want it to go that way. If I would have wanted to, then perhaps spending extra 20, 30,000, 40,000 may solve the issue, may. But in this motorcycle, the Classic 350, the stock suspension is more than enough. It's just perfect. So perfect gearing, perfect suspension is something, you know, that's going to push your motorcycle towards perfection, at least within the city. This motorcycle, the Classic 350 I'm talking about, is not meant for, you know, high speeds. So if you're planning taking the motorcycle to the highway for any speeds above than 90 kilometers per hour, then this is not the motorcycle for you, okay? Don't plan this one. Yes, it can go above 90 kilometers per hour, but it's not happy doing so. And that is one fact which I knew even before I bought this motorcycle. And that is another point at which the Highness, you know, wins. Basically, Honda tuned the gearing of the Highness in such a way to achieve best of both worlds, to give you a good performance in the low end and a good top end. So they did achieve a better top end than the Classic 350. In my motorcycle, I could reach up to 130-ish kilometer per hour. I just did it once because I don't intend to ride a single cylinder 350cc roadster at that speed. But on the contrary, Honda did that at the cost of, you know, uneven or poor city performance with respect to the gearing of the motorcycle, which is not the case with this motorcycle, the Classic 350. It gives you a very thumpy, very good, punchy performance all through the city, regardless of which gear you're in. But there is no good top end. I mean, the top end is much less than the Highness, at least 20 kilometers per hour, 20 kilometers per hour less than the Highness. But I don't mind, because these motorcycles, they are not made for those speeds. They are made for riding flawlessly inside the city. Now, the fit and finish. Okay. Well, this is another department where it's quite debatable. Now, since I have owed both the motorcycle, the Highness, as well as I'm owing a Royal Enfield Classic 350 now. So, although it's just around 3,000 kilometer and a couple of months that I'm owing it, but still I have a fair enough idea about the fit and finish, the quality that this brand, this model is providing. It's good, I won't complain. It is at par with Honda, that's what I would like to say. It is at par with, at least Highness, it is at par with that. The exhaust note is another thing which I am very interested in when I am, riding an old school retro motorcycle. So in the Highness, I won't say the exhaust note is bad. No, it isn't bad. It's good. I have been enjoying it all through the 30,000 kilometer that I had with me. But in the Highness, the exhaust notes are more, you get more highs than the lows, okay, if you know what I mean. But in this one, it's very much balanced. Even if you hear the exhaust note without wearing a helmet, you get to hear a balanced note. There are good amounts of lows, good amounts of mids, and good amounts of highs as well. It's very, very thumpy, very thumpy. In fact, I personally like the exhaust note of the Reborn engine more than the UC engine. The cost of spare parts, the cost of servicing, the cost of ownership, everything is either a tad bit less in the Classic 350 or a lot less. There are n number of service centers, there are n number of spare part outlets. You are never going to face the issue of a spare parts shortage or unavailability of spare parts. There are a lot of options regarding aftermarket accessories, be it handlebar, be it foot bags, be it seat, anything. You see it and you're going to have it, either from Royal Enfield themselves or some aftermarket accessory, aftermarket company, third party company. So that's definitely there. The brakes, yeah, the brakes, again, I would give this motorcycle full marks. The brakes are awesome, at least for the speed that this motorcycle is intended to do, which I just said, 80 to 100 kilometers per hour. For those speeds and for the weight that this motorcycle is off, the brakes are too good. Definitely better than the Highness. The hardware itself is better, and the overall braking experience of the motorcycle, the rear and the front, both, much better than the Highness. So you see now the speedometer needle is hovering somewhere around 60 kilometers per hour, okay, and the bike is in the 5th gear and it's in its sweet spot, okay. So the same thing, if it would have been on Highness, it would have been somewhere around 70, 75-ish, or somewhere close to 80. I won't call it 80, but somewhere close to 80 in the 5th gear, as the sweet spot. So this is the trade-off that you have to do with the Classic 350, you know, for which you're getting the low-end torque and stability, which most of the time you're going to do in a bike of this platform, roadster. Again, the topic is debatable that you could go for a different sprocket set for the Highness and achieve the same thing. Well, you definitely could, but that falls under modification, and I believe there are limitations with regards to the, you know, fuel mapping. So when you play around with the sprockets and don't do anything about the fueling of the motorcycle, then you mess up the thing a little bit. So I'm not sure though, but it is what it is. At the end मैं यही बताऊंगा कि चॉइस आपका है. मैंने हाइनेस चला लिया 30,000 किलोमीटर. मेरा शौक़ जो है हाइनेस को लेके पूरा हो गया. और हर बाइक में खामियां, हर बाइक में खूबियां रहता है, तो उसमें भी उसका खुद का खामियां खूबियां था, इसमें भी है. We are going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of this motorcycle in some other video, not in this one. But the bottom line is I had enjoyed my bit with the Highness, and so I had sold it off. But yes, I have more fun with this motorcycle inside the city, as I said, due to the gearing, due to the good tuned, well tuned suspension for our city roads. So ये सब कुछ points है जिसके लिए, you know, I really and am in love with this motorcycle, and the way it looks, man, gorgeous. This, you know, this complete head over here, this is the iconic tiger head of the Classic or the Bullet, whatever you want to call it. So these things matter. So if these things matter to you, you are gonna love this. I had a Royal Enfield in my life before, way back in 2015, when the Bullet 500 launched. Not the Classic 500, the Bullet 500, with the one with the carburetor. That was the last generation of the 500 series that they came out with the carburetor. It didn't run much well at that time. I had that one for a couple of months, and then unfortunately, due to some issues, as I said, the UC engine, I didn't like it much, so due to some issues I had to sell it off. So I have a fair enough idea about Royal Enfield, and I know how much of effort they have given to, you know, come up till this level. They have really improved a lot with respect to their quality, with respect to their technology, everything. This motorcycle, you know, like, see, it was in the 3rd gear and I pulled the throttle, and the Highness, there is a hollow feeling, you know, when you just roll the throttle at certain situations. You feel the need of a downshift. That's not there in this one, and that's purely how the fuel mapping and the gearing of a motorcycle is tuned. So that's what I said, that this motorcycle is way better tuned for the city, because they didn't think even a bit about the highway. And regarding the Honda, they tried to pull up something to, you know, give best of both worlds, a good city ride as well as a good highway ride. And yeah, they did. They did become successful in, you know, doing that. But if you get that, then you don't get, you know, best in any of the section. You get better of both worlds, let's say. But with the Classic, they didn't have the load of providing a good performance in the highway, so they were 100% focused for the city, and hence the output talks for itself, which is good, because serious riders, they are not going to take this motorcycle for highway, high speed runs. You could definitely take this motorcycle on the highway. People have gone for world tour, maybe, I don't know, with this motorcycle. कहाँ लेके चले गए ये बाइक को, बुलेट को. So जा तो ज़रूर सकता है, एक एक्टिवा भी जा सकता है कहीं भी. The question is, when I say highway ride, when I say long tour, I mean stability at high speeds. And high speeds according to me is not 110, 120. High speeds according to me is above 140, 150, 160. That's what I mean by high speed. So I am ready to give up 20 to 30 kilometers per hour speed in a motorcycle for much better performance in the lower end. The fit and finish of the switch gear, the handlebar, the bar end, the levers and everything, they give you all a very, very premium feel. At least in the Reborn series, people have zero complaints regarding the fit and finish, the quality, the refinement of the motorcycle. Absolute old school charm is maintained. So you see these all potholes and bumps and everything, you don't even feel in this motorcycle. They are so cleverly, they have so cleverly tuned the suspension that and surprisingly I didn't even have to adjust the preload of the rear suspension. I don't even know where the setting is, but whatever the default setting is, it just works for me. I do have plans of putting in an aftermarket exhaust, not for the loudness but for the thump. So let's see. I'm still at my research of selecting a good exhaust. एक बढ़िया सा थम्पी exhaust चाहिए अपन को. The mileage, I believe both the motorcycles, the Highness and the Classic, are at par. 19-20 फ़र्क हो सकता है. मैंने कैलकुलेट तो नहीं किया कितना देता है या देती है, पर दोनों more or less सेम देती है. Highness used to give me somewhere around 30-32. Pet loadings भी इसमें कम है Highness से. The traction control is not there, and you don't get the average fuel consumption and all such things in this motorcycle, but that's okay. मैंने hardly use किया है वो traction control. I hardly had used in the Highness, and as I said, I have already owned that motorcycle and completely used it to my full satisfaction, and then I bought this one. So it's not that I'm going to miss those. I'm not going to miss those because I hardly had used the traction control. तो traction control कौन ही use करता है उतना भाई, उसको कौन ही उतना off on करता है. So वो इसमें नहीं है, इसमें ABS है of course. The brake pads I believe are not that costly as the ones in Highness. Highness I believe it's somewhere around $900 stock ones. So इसमें मेरे ख्याल से 300-400 रुपया में एक पेयर आ जाता है. So as I said, maintenance is very, very cheap for this motorcycle. आरी हैज़ प्राइस्ड इट वेरी कॉम्पिटिटिवली. अब वो सब तो है. सो बाकी बातें अलग वीडियोस में होता रहेगा. तो इसमें मुझे सिर्फ यही बताना था आप लोगों को, क्योंकि बहुत जने का ये क्वेश्चन है कि मैंने क्यों हाइनेस बेच के ये लिया same segment motorcycle, because you see I always would keep a roadster in my motorcycle, you know, long stroke engine का मज़ा कुछ अलग ही है. और विद इन सिटी लॉन्ग स्ट्रोक शॉर्ट गियर्ड मोटरसाइकिल चलाने का मज़ा नेक्स्ट लेवल है भाई लोग. तो दैट्स व्हाई आई हैड सोल्ड माय हाइनेस एंड बॉट द क्लासिक 350. और टशन तो है ही, बुलेट का टशन तो अलग ही है. दैट आई डोंट नीड टू, दैट आई नीड नॉट say anything about. We all know that, right? So that's about it for this vlog, guys. I hope you like it. If you like it, do hit the like button and subscribe to my channel if you're new. A lot of videos are in the pipeline. It will be recorded and uploaded one after the other. Take care. Bye bye.